Welcome to today's deep dive into some of the most important but often unappreciated birds of the Americas, the New World vultures. Vultures tend to get a bad rap due to their association with death, but they play a vital role in ecosystems. These birds are nature's cleanup crew, removing carrion and reducing the spread of disease. As grim as their job may seem, vultures have evolved remarkable adaptations to thrive in this essential ecological niche. If you'd like to learn more, check out the document in the description with research papers and image credits. The relationships between birds of prey have long been debated, and few birds illustrate this better than vultures. They are in the order Accipitriformes, alongside hawks and eagles. Not long ago, until around 2008, this entire order was included within a different order, Falconiformes, together with the falcons. But genetic studies revealed that their similarities were superficial, the result of convergent evolution, not close ancestry. Accipitriformes is currently recognized as having 4 families. The status of Cathartidae, the New World vultures, is occasionally debated. Most taxonomists include them as the basal or earliest branching family within the order, while others propose placing them in their own separate order altogether. Either way, Cathartidae is our focus today, and we'll return to them shortly. The second family is Sagittariidae, which contains just one living species, the secretary bird. Native to the African savanna, this large raptor is famous for its long legs and deadly kicks, which are especially effective against snakes. Third is Pandionidae, the osprey family. This group contains 1, or sometimes 2, species of highly specialised fish-eating raptors with unique adaptations for aquatic hunting. And finally, we have Accipitridae, the largest and most familiar group. This includes hawks, eagles, kites, and Old World vultures. With over 250 species spread across 75 genera, this family is very diverse, and all its members are unified by their predatory lifestyles. Now, earlier, I referred to Cathartidae as the New World vultures. That is, vultures from the Americas. There are also Old World vultures, found in Africa and Eurasia. Despite their similar roles as scavengers, the two groups are not closely related. Their shared traits, bald heads, hooked beaks, soaring flight, are the result of convergent evolution. While the New World vultures have their own family, Cathartidae, the Old World vultures are part of Accipitridae, the same family as hawks and eagles. The family Cathartidae, better known as the New World vultures, includes just 7 living species. But what they lack in numbers, they more than make up for in ecological importance. Found in southern Canada all the way down to the tip of Argentina, these birds occupy a vital niche, clearing carcasses from the landscape before disease can spread. In this video, we'll be focusing on 4 of them, the turkey vulture, the black vulture, and both the lesser and great yellow-headed vultures. We'll save the giants of the family, the Californian condor, Andean condor, and the striking king vulture, for a follow-up video, where we can give them the attention they deserve. But before we get into the individual species, it's worth asking a more fundamental question. What actually makes a vulture a vulture? What features unite these scavenging birds into a single evolutionary group? Perhaps the most iconic feature is the bald head. While it might seem unsettling at first glance, it's a textbook example of function over form. New World vultures often have to plunge their heads deep into carcasses to feed, and feathers in that environment would quickly become soaked with blood and bacteria. A bare head is simply easier to keep clean. Some researchers also suggest that these unfeathered heads help with thermoregulation, allowing vultures to shed excess heat in warmer climates by radiating it through their exposed skin. Another defining trait is their stomach acid. Vultures have some of the most acidic digestive systems in the animal kingdom, powerful enough to kill bacteria that cause botulism, cholera, anthrax, and other deadly diseases. This acid has a pH of below 1, on par with battery acid. This extreme acidity not only sterilizes what they eat, but allows them to digest tough materials like tendons, cartilage, and even bone fragments. Their immune systems and gut microbiomes are also specially adapted to cope with this toxic buffet. Most birds don't rely much on their sense of smell, but some New World vultures break that rule entirely. Members of the genus Cathartes, that includes the turkey and yellow-headed vultures, have a highly developed olfactory bulb. This allows them to detect the faint scent of ethyl mercaptan, a gas produced early during decomposition, from kilometres away. In fact, their sense of smell is so sensitive that turkey vultures were once used to help locate leaks in natural gas pipelines, since gas companies added ethyl mercaptan to make leaks detectable by humans. While some birds must flap continuously to stay aloft, vultures are gliders, masters of passive flight. Their broad wings, long flight feathers, and lightweight frames allow them to soar for hours, riding thermal updrafts with barely a flap. This makes them incredibly efficient travellers, capable of covering vast distances with minimal energy. Carrion is an unusually difficult resource to rely on. It appears randomly in time and space, dependent on accidents, predation, or natural deaths, and it doesn't stay edible for long. There's no guarantee when or where the next meal will show up. As a result, vultures must cover enormous areas every day just to find food. Their ability to glide on thermals with almost no energy isn't just a convenience, it's a lifeline. When your food is both scarce and unpredictable, this kind of flight efficiency becomes absolutely essential for survival. One adaptation that might not win any elegance awards is a behaviour called urohydrosis. When they overheat, vultures will defecate on their own legs. As the liquid evaporates, it cools the blood vessels in their unfeathered skin, much like sweating does in humans. Interestingly, their waste also contains uric acid, which may help disinfect their legs after walking through rotten carcasses, so this strange habit could serve a dual purpose. Together, these traits make the New World vultures one of the most specialised scavenger groups on the planet, uniquely suited to their grim but necessary role. They are not simply passive consumers of leftovers. They are ecological sanitation workers, disease suppressors, and evolutionary oddities all rolled into one. With that foundation in place, let's turn our attention to the species themselves. The family is divided into two major clades, but the one we're focusing on today begins with one of the most widespread and resilient members, the black vulture. We begin with Coragyps atratus, the black vulture. While it may not have the striking coloration or fame of some of its relatives, it's one of the most adaptable and widespread vultures in the Americas. Today it ranges from the southeastern United States all the way through Central and South America. But this lineage actually stretches back much further. While the only living member of its genus, fossils tell us that the black vulture once had a larger, more robust cousin, Coragyps occidentalis, the Pleistocene black vulture. This extinct species likely weighed more and had a broader wingspan, better suited to gliding in cooler, denser air. It lived during the last ice age and likely scavenged megafauna carcasses, mastodons, giant ground sloths, and horses, across much of North and South America. As the Pleistocene ended and those large prey animals disappeared, C. occidentalis went with them. In contrast, the modern black vulture survived, possibly thanks to its smaller size and more generalist habits. Today's black vultures are strong, social, and opportunistic. Unlike the turkey vulture, they lack a highly developed sense of smell. Instead, they rely primarily on their vision to locate food. But here's where things get interesting. Black vultures have learned to track turkey vultures in flight. By following them to carcasses, they piggyback on the turkey vulture's superior scent tracking abilities. Once a carcass is located, black vultures, being more aggressive, can often displace turkey vultures entirely, especially when in groups. This behaviour illustrates a broader pattern. Black vultures are unusually social for scavenging birds. They often forage and roost in large groups, and they're known to cooperate when mobbing a food source or driving off competitors. While they're primarily scavengers, they're not above taking eggs, small animals, or even newborn livestock under the right conditions, a behaviour that has, at times, put them at odds with farmers. Black vultures build simple nests, often in hollow logs, rock crevices, or abandoned buildings. They don't construct traditional nests. Instead, they lay their eggs directly on the ground or substrate. Typically, 2 eggs are laid and both parents take part in incubation and feeding. Chicks are fed by regurgitation and remain in the nest for around 2 months before fledging. Though not much for aesthetics, black vultures are highly attentive parents. In terms of conservation, black vultures are doing remarkably well. They are rated least concern by the IUCN, and their numbers are believed to be increasing. Their range has expanded northward in recent decades, possibly due to a warming climate and changing land use patterns. So much so that in many areas, they're now more common than turkey vultures. Despite this success, they still face several important threats. One of the most serious comes from poisoning, particularly due to lead shot in carcasses and livestock contaminated with agricultural chemicals. Since black vultures often feed in large groups, a single poisoned carcass can kill dozens. Additionally, conflicts with farmers pose a real problem. Black vultures have been documented attacking newborn calves and small livestock, sometimes in groups, targeting the eyes and soft tissue, often with fatal outcomes. In the US, records from Missouri and Indiana show rising incidences of these attacks, prompting farmers to seek permits to employ lethal control, while others use deterrents like effigies, guard dogs, or noise-based tactics. They can even become a nuisance in suburban or rural communities. Large roosting groups may damage property, tearing at roof shingles, weakening window seals, and scratching paint from vehicles. Although black vultures are not endangered, they're still protected under national migratory bird laws, so any form of lethal control requires a permit. These human-vulture conflicts highlight the complexity of conserving a species that's thriving and not always welcomed. Black vultures have held symbolic importance in several pre-Columbian cultures, particularly in Mesoamerica. In Maya cosmology, vultures were not simply death birds, they were seen as agents of transformation, linked to purification, decay, and the transition between worlds. Black vultures, with their somber coloration and carrion-feeding habits, were often associated with the end of life, but also with the renewal that follows. In Maya art and glyphs, vulture figures frequently appeared in contexts relating to sacrifice, funerary rites, and celestial cycles. Farther south, in pre-Columbian Peru, vulture-like birds are depicted among the famous Nazca geoglyphs, vast figures carved into the desert. While it's difficult to assign these to a specific species, some interpretations suggest the black vulture was among the models, symbolizing death and rebirth in the harsh desert landscape. These representations underscore how vultures were viewed, not just with fear or revulsion, but with a certain reverence for their ecological role in the cycle of life. So while the black vulture may seem plain at first glance, it has a rich evolutionary history, surprising intelligence, and a deep cultural legacy. From Ice Age megafauna to modern landfall sites, it has adapted to a changing world with grit and resilience. The turkey vulture, Cathartes aura, is one of the most familiar and widespread scavengers in the Americas, ranging from southern Canada all the way to Tierra del Fuego. Despite their almost ghostly glide through the sky, they're not just survivors, they're specialists, and members of the only genus with multiple species in the family. While some taxonomies split the species into as many as 5 subspecies, most agree on at least 3, varying slightly in size and plumage across the continent. In flight, turkey vultures are instantly recognizable, if you know what to look for. They soar with their wings held in a distinctive V shape, wobbling slightly as they ride the thermals. From below, their long two-toned wings are hard to mistake. The dark forewings fade sharply to silvery white along the trailing edge. This contrast is one of the easiest ways to tell them apart from black vultures, which have shorter wings, shorter tails, and only small white patches at the wingtips. The iconic red head of the turkey vulture, reminiscent of a wild turkey, is striking up close, but can be surprisingly hard to see from a distance. In the air, plumage and flight styles are more reliable indicators. Unlike the more aggressive black vulture, turkey vultures are almost entirely passive feeders. They rarely displace others and tend to avoid confrontation altogether. But what turkey vultures lack in muscle, they make up for in sensory perception. They have the most developed sense of smell of any bird species studied, thanks to an enlarged olfactory bulb in the brain. They can detect decaying carcasses from several kilometers away, a rare trait among birds, and allows them to find carrion that's hidden beneath the forest canopy or tucked away in thick brush. places where even other vultures might miss it. In fact, turkey vultures are often the first to locate a carcass, only to be pushed aside when more assertive species arrive. Black vultures, as we have already mentioned, are a prime offender of this, shadowing the turkey vultures to find food and then muscling in for the feast. Like black vultures, turkey vultures are thriving. They are listed as least concern by the IUCN, with stable or increasing populations across much of their range. In recent decades, they've expanded northward into the northern United States and southern Canada, likely due to a combination of milder winters, habitat changes, and an increase in roadkill and human-generated food sources. Their adaptability to a wide range of environments, from forests and deserts to farmlands and suburbs, has given them a resilience that many scavengers lack. Unlike their bolder cousins, turkey vultures tend to avoid direct conflicts with humans. Their solitary or small group foraging style, gentler demeanour, and reluctance to approach live animals or human settlements means they rarely damage property or attract complaints from farmers. They are also less likely to fall victim to persecution or lethal control programs. Nonetheless, they still face threats from poisoning, particularly from ingesting lead fragments and carcasses, and from collisions with vehicles and power lines. Fortunately, in many areas, public awareness and protections under migratory bird laws help to mitigate these risks. While not as culturally prominent as some other vultures, turkey vultures have held a place in the oral traditions of several Native American communities, particularly in the eastern and central United States. In some stories, they are portrayed as messengers or as purifying spirits that clean the land after death. Their ability to sense decay before it becomes visible lent them an air of quiet, watchful foresight, unsettling to some, but deeply respected by others. Soaring silently overhead, they are often overlooked, but the turkey vulture is a master of its role, gliding with grace, guided by scent, and serving an essential ecological function that no bird can match. The final two species we'll look at today are the two yellow-headed vultures, the remaining members of Cathartes, the lesser yellow-headed vulture, Cathartes burrovianus, and the greater yellow-headed vulture, Cathartes melambrotus. For many years, the two yellow-headed species were considered a single bird, but they were formally split in 1964 based on differences in size, habitat, and range. Distinctions confirmed more recently by genetic studies. The lesser yellow-headed vulture ranges from Mexico to northern Argentina and is commonly found in open wetlands, savannas, and grasslands. The greater yellow-headed vulture, by contrast, is found almost exclusively in the Amazon rainforest and adjacent typical lowlands, where it is far more elusive. It is also slightly larger on average and typically displays deeper coloration in the bare skin on its head. Both species are superficially similar to the turkey vulture in shape and flight pattern. Long wings, a rocking glide, and slightly translucent flight feathers, but their bald heads are tinted in shades of yellow and orange rather than red. These colours can be hard to spot from a distance, so field identification often depends more on range and habitat than appearance. Like their cousin, they possess a remarkable sense of smell, allowing them to locate carrion hidden beneath thick vegetation or forest undergrowth, an ability rare among birds. This powerful olfactory sense plays a key role in an intriguing ecological relationship. The greater yellow-headed vulture, for example, often locates carcasses deep in the rainforest, but lacks the bill strength to tear into the tough hides of large animals. In these situations, it is sometimes followed by the much larger king vulture, a species that lacks a well-developed sense of smell. Once on the scene, the king vulture can use its strong beak to open the carcass, inadvertently giving the greater yellow-headed vulture access to the meal. While not strictly cooperative, this relationship benefits both species. One finds the food, the other makes it accessible. Despite these advantages, both yellow-headed vultures are typically subordinate at carcasses. They are often displaced by larger or more aggressive scavengers, particularly black and king vultures. As a result, they rely on their exceptional sense of smell to locate carrion early and begin feeding before competition arrives. Little is known about their breeding behaviours in the wild, though they are believed to nest in secluded spots on the ground or in hollow logs, and raise just 1 or 2 chicks per season. Despite their wide ranges, both species remain somewhat understudied, especially in more remote parts of their territory. Both are currently listed as least concern by the IUCN, though the greater yellow-headed vulture is thought to be more vulnerable to habitat loss due to its reliance on intact rainforest ecosystems. The lesser, by contrast, is more adapted to human-altered landscapes, though still threatened in some areas by poisoning and environmental pollution. While they don't appear as prominently in folklore as some of their relatives, yellow-headed vultures are no less important. Their presence is a sign of healthy ecosystems, and their silent, solitary patrols remind us that not all scavengers need a spotlight to play a vital role. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the shadowy world of New World vultures. From acidic stomachs to aerial scent tracking, these birds are far more than grim symbols of death. They're some of the most specialised scavengers on the planet. The 4 species we've explored today might not be the largest or flashiest, but they're the backbone of the ecosystem, quietly cleaning the landscape, holding disease at bay, and carving out a niche that few other creatures can fill. Their adaptations might seem grotesque at first glance, but they're honed by millions of years of evolution for a role that's as vital as it is misunderstood. And we're not done yet. Next week, we'll meet the remaining members of the family, from the vibrant king vulture to the massive Andean and Californian condors. These giants bring their own set of adaptations, mysteries, and conservation stories that are well worth spotlighting. So, if this video sparked your curiosity, don't let it stop here. Share it, talk about it, and keep learning. There's so much more to learn about the overlooked roles animals play in the ecosystems around us. And the more we understand, the better chance we have of protecting them. Thanks for watching. If there's another fascinating species you'd like to learn more about, let me know in the comments below.